the music stops, you see him in the mirror standing behind you. Look what she made.
Is it a challenge for you to not get sucked into sequels and not get sucked into certain things that you don't want to do? Is it a challenge for you to stay original and unique every single time you choose a film to direct or work on a project?
Yeah, no, it's very important. I need to, the films that I go into, I need to be passionate about it. That's the bottom line.
Right.
No, whether it's a sequel or not a sequel, I have to be passionate about it. I've stayed away from sequels for a very long time, and that's why I never did any of the Saw films, because I felt that, I made the first one and kind of told the story I wanted to do, and it wasn't for a lack of money that they wanted to, that they got in front of me to try and get me back. I was like, I don't make my movies for money. I mean, I don't do that. If I'm driven by that, then I don't know, then I would have picked very different films to do. So now, having said that, I did do the sequel to Insidious Chapter 2, and but part of the reason why is because I love the characters. I love the characters that Lee and I created in the first movie, and I just come back and see them again. And I had such a great time working with the cast and the crew and the producers and all that. So I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe nice to just go back and see family again.
Right.
So that was why I did that. But in terms of The Conjuring, after Insidious, I didn't really want to do another ghost story, haunted house, supernatural movie, right? I'm like, I already done it. I don't like kind of repeating myself if I cannot find something different to it. And so when The Conjuring came along, I was like, oh man, it is the story about the Warrens. And I've been so fascinated with the Warrens for so long that I couldn't really turn it down. I've been so fascinated and so intrigued by them and what they do that, and also the chance to make a true life story based on real people that still exist today. That was what made it different for me. That was what set Conjuring apart from Insidious. So I went for it.
Yeah. When you get attached, do you immediately start thinking about how you can approach it in a different way, how you can approach sort of scares in a different way, or how you can almost one-up yourself, or is it more of you just want to service the story and make sure it's told in a good way?
It's a combination of the both. I want to do, as always, I want to do what services the story. I think that's the most important thing. I want to do what's right for the characters and what's right for the story that I want to tell. But of course, at the same time, I didn't want to do. I definitely want to find something different as well. In terms of the set piece, and or at least take it a bit further.
Right.
And definitely, I learned a lot from making Insidious that I applied to The Conjuring.
Good.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've been almost shoehorned as a horror guy now, and would you like to branch out? I mean, I know we all know you were attached to Fast Furious 7, but I mean, and you made Death Sentence, and there is a variety to your work, but I feel like people now know you as a horror guy. Is that something that you don't like, or is that something that you're fine with?
It's such a tough question for me to answer because, being typecast in some ways means you have a brand. And it's never a bad thing to have a brand, right? Like, people work so hard to have a brand going. But the flip side to that is I don't just see myself as a horror filmmaker, because I think that's so limiting to just do one thing. I'm a student of cinema, and I love filmmaking of all kinds, and that's the one thing I don't like about being put in a box. And I have worked pretty much since Saw to break out of that box. And I constantly, I would hear someone like Wes Craven saying stuff like that, how he would have such a hard time breaking out and doing all that stuff. And so I'm very mindful, I'm learning from past masters of horrors. And I kind of, I kind of want to, heed what they have to say. And so, my third movie was me branching out to do something different. but because no one really saw that film, and so so I kind of did get to break out that way,
Right.
and so I came back and you know what, I'm gonna make a haunted house film because I'm such a big fan of the haunted house subgenre, and except I want to do it on my terms, and so Lee and I worked on a story that was basically a spin on the haunted house genre, a new take on that, and that was really exciting, and now The Conjuring is something a bit different again, and I think it's cool. Even though my last 4 or 5 films is in the scary movie genre, I think that they have a very different smell and flavor to them, and I think that's kind of cool. And
Yeah.
but I think I The Conjuring and Insidious Chapter 2 are basically my last horror movies.
Ooh, ever or just at the moment for this particular time?
You can never say
Right,
ever. Sean Connery made a movie about that called Never Say Never Again.
Right.
I never say never. And so, but I think it's time that I go and do something different.
Cool. Well, it's almost like I don't want to talk about horror anymore. No, but I want to ask, or I want to say that one of the reasons I love your films is that you're very. I just love your filmmaking and the way. I mean, obviously, one thing that works well is your tension and the suspense you build. And I was just talking with a girl earlier about how you can try and cover your eyes in The Conjuring, but you're still like freaked out by the noises, by the sound, the music, everything. There's so much to it where it's just you're making people scared no matter what. And I'm wondering, how do you continue to keep horror and scares so fresh nowadays? And how do you continue to scare audiences and keep that tension going when there's so much horror, we see so much new movies every year?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
I know it's very difficult to stay a step ahead of today's audiences.
Yeah.
They're so accustomed to everything now, right? And they've seen everything, and I say, I'm not really here to kind of reinvent the wheel, especially since making a movie that is, that I have to sort of, I mean, that's the thing with The Conjuring. I couldn't really go too far outside of the box. Because if I go too far outside of what is real from what these people tell me, right, then I'm not being genuine to what happened to them, right? And so what happened to them are things like a chair moving on its own, a door creaking, door slamming shut, like people being pulled out of bed and stuff like that. And all these are classic horror movie tropes, right? And so I went into that knowing, okay, people are going to say that he's not really doing anything different there, but I totally get that, and I'm not there to do something different because it wouldn't be true to what they tell me. But I feel like what I can do that I can bring to it is I can make it feel different. I can stage it different. I can, you may be familiar with this, but I'm going to show it to you from a very different perspective. And I think that was the big challenge that I wanted to do with The Conjuring. And to me, for my filmmaking, like you pointed out, it's a cinematic experience. It's not just the visual. I want you to be sucked in by the story, be engaged by the characters, and use use the sound design and the musical score to kind of throw you into that world. Use the production design of that sort of period detail, and know when to hold back on the silence, all that kind of stuff. Right? To me, it's an umbrella experience.